I am Candid Nicole. Welcome to this edition of Candid Conversations, brought to you by the Future Loan Report. So today's episode is really special because, like I said, I'm not an expert when it comes to finances, so I don't want to lead you in the wrong direction. So I had to make a quick email and see if my man Ash Cash can talk to you guys about some tips to funding your business and also just keeping the balance between your personal and your business finances. So he is best-selling author, motivational speaker, radio personality. You got so many titles.
Yeah, right.
I don't even know what to call him.
Right.
We're going to call him Mr. Ash Cash.
Yes.
Thank you for coming today.
No, appreciate you. Thank you
Straight
so much
from
for having me.
Atlanta.
Yes.
So we was talking behind the scenes about how you grew up in Harlem,
Yes.
New York. So what was young Cash like? Was money always on the mind?
Always. So young Ash Cash is funny because that was a name that I had since I was young, and I'll tell you.
Really?
Yeah, I'll tell you a funny story. I'll fast forward and I'll rewind. Right. The reason why I started to write it as Ash Cash is when I first started my side hustle. I was a VP at JP Morgan Chase, and it was a conflict of interest. Right. It was a conflict of interest for me to teach about money and work at the bank. And so I knew they knew Ash Exantis, which is my government name, but no one knew Ash Cash. I was like, yo, if I was gonna write under a moniker, like what name would I write under? I was like, yo, people in the block call me Ash Cash anyway, and that's why I wrote under that name. But to your question, as far as has money always been on the brain? Absolutely. So I grew up St. Nicholas Houses, 129th Street, 8th Avenue, Harlem, born and raised, and I'm a product of a single parent home. My pops left when I was 2 years old, and so my mom raised three of us. I have an older brother, older sister. I'm the youngest of three, and my mom, came here from Haiti, right? Haitian immigrant. Didn't really know English, and so I don't even think she finished high school, honestly. And so the type of jobs that she can get were only like factory jobs, right? And so she wasn't really bringing in too much money, and because she wasn't from here, and we were kids. She didn't really know about like the welfare system or anything like that. And so we didn't, get public assistance until later on, right? And so you think, I'm a young kid, we have no government assistance. And so I started packing bags, 8 years old. Supermarket, Bravo, Fast Shop the Bravo, right? I was packing bags, helping old ladies across the street with their groceries and was making good money, because I learned the art of customer service and treating people the right way, and was able to make some money doing that. So at 8, I was always figuring it out, like, yo, I'm gonna get it. Eventually, I graduated to 125th Street. So at the time, I grew up in the 90s as well, and so at the time, 125th Street, all the vendors were out there, and so I was selling mixtapes, I was selling T-shirts, and so
you were naturally
always, it was always on the grind because it was just something in me that when I looked at my surroundings that said this is not the way it's supposed to be. And I had that from young. I was like, nah, it gotta be different. Like, there's no reason why I should be starving like this. There's no reason why there's abundance in this world. This is me at a young age, and I'm like, yo, why I can't get to it? So I did all I could do, and it just followed me, throughout my career.
So how did you get, because you said you started at 19.
Yeah.
How did you get introduced to the big industry?
Yeah.
Was it like, I need a job, and you just go fill it out?
Yeah, it was like I don't want to say a mistake, because I think everything is divine and everything happens for a reason. But at 17, my sister was an assistant manager at Blockbuster Videos. That's like Blockbuster Videos. Word, we got too many parallels. Yeah, so my sister worked at Blockbuster Videos, and she was an assistant manager. I was around 17 years old, and one of my friends, my good friends, was selling drugs, and he was making like a killing. Like, he had cars, everything. And so I'm like, yo, I'm hanging out with this guy every day. I see the attention he's getting, especially from the ladies. I'm like, I want that too. And I'm like, nah, I can't let my brother and my sister supporting me at this time. I was still, hustling a little bit, but I wasn't making, any real money. And so I'm like, nah, I'm about to start hustling. And so my sister and I had a conversation. She's like, yo, if I can get you a job, would you work? I'm like, of course. So at 17, I got a job at Blockbuster Videos, did that for about 2 years. And right after I graduated high school, one of the assistant managers at Blockbuster came in and was like, yo, they're hiring at Chase for tellers. And I was like, yo, that'd be dope. And at that time, I'm like, but you know, I already was an assistant manager as well at Blockbuster. I was like, the next step for me is store manager, and then that's it. So I said, you know, like, why not? Took the test, got the job, and actually for a good while, I did both. I was working at night as an assistant manager at Blockbuster, and in the morning I was working as a teller. And then I just fell in love. I fell in love with finance because banking taught me the real way that money works that I wasn't told, you know, growing up. And so I just fell in love, and then and from there, you know, I started at 19. I just worked really, really hard, and I've done everything in banking: teller, personal banker, private banker, branch manager, was the CEO of a credit union, and so I've done it all at an early age.
24, you was like VP.
VP, yeah. So it took me about 5 years to really like get from a teller to VP at a bank. Yeah, was running my own branch. It was you know, because you know, like Jay-Z said, right? Men lie, women lie, numbers don't. And so for me, once I learned something, like once I could, honestly, if I see somebody else do it, it's motivation for me. Like if I see somebody else with something, I'm never like a hater and be like, damn, why they got this and I don't. I just be like, oh, like this person gets it. And so working at Chase, I saw a lot of young people who had these positions. And I'm like, yo, I didn't get this. I didn't know. I thought you had to work a certain amount of years to get this position. I'm seeing 20-year-olds doing great things within the banking industry. So I said, yo, hold on. I learned the game, and, you know, was able to kind of climb up the ladder, and you know, I was really dedicated. I was the first one in, last one out. Was really working hard, and that hard work got me noticed. And to the point where, you know, I did run across that barrier where I'm telling them, listen, I'm ready, and they're like, nah, you're too young, right? They didn't say it, but you know, I kept getting the runaround. And I'm like, yo, look at my numbers. And in fact, I had to force their hand because the way I got VP at such a young age, I was like, yo, you know what? All right, cool. I'm out, right? Went right to Citibank, interviewed with them, right? I went right to Citibank, interviewed with them. I printed out all my numbers from Chase, and I said, yo, this is what I'm doing. And they're like, wow. And so they ready to give me this money. So now I go back to Chase like, yo,
what we gonna do?
What we gonna do?
That's great leverage.
What we gonna do?
Go across the street.
Exactly. And they, in no way they were gonna let one of their top bankers go to the competition. So they had to.
So,
you know,
with that big industry, I know 5 years to get to that position.
Yep.
And like, what other obstacles did you have to face? Because was it other, like, I don't want to play the race card, but were there other black people in there?
Yeah, I think.
All right, or was it like a challenge, like were you the only black person?
Yeah, I think that was one of the obstacles, right? Was that the young people that I talk about were young black people.
Because I was wondering, right? I was like, because I ain't sitting at my bank.
Right. They weren't the young black people. They were the young, you know, so banking is a boys' club. Yeah, right. I see some shifts happening in banking today, and so it might not be exactly that now. But when I was coming up, it was a white boys' club, to be honest. And so yeah, there was a lot of, you know, young white kids from Long Island coming into the city because I worked at Two Penn Plaza right on Madison Square Garden. So you know, it was that, you know.
They didn't treat you no way, right? It was just like.
No, I think I think it was more so, you know, you just had to work harder, right?
Yeah,
you know, to get.
Don't lie.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? You just have to work harder. You just had to work harder. You just had to remind people, you know, you had to, you know, humbly, you know, it wasn't like, oh, I'm the man, but I'm like, listen, my customers love me. I have a book of business. This is what I'm doing. This is what I bring to the table. And so, you know, I think one of the obstacles, I mean, there were black folks there, but a lot of them were a little older, you know, so they had the experience. Actually, you know, my mentor, Michael Black, the guy who really helped me a lot at Chase was a black guy. He was a branch manager. He was my branch manager. And in fact, he's the one that really kind of straightened me out because, you know, at the time I'm 19. I still live in the projects. I'm still hanging out with the same people. And so I brought the street mentality with me to the bank. And I remember one day he like pulled me and was like yelling at me, like, "Yo, Ash, you're not in the streets, stop talking like that." And he was the one that, right, but he was the one that, influenced me to, pick up a grammar book, because my grammar wasn't where it needed to be. I couldn't have certain conversations, and so I started reading the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, the things that allowed me to have certain conversations. And that's how I was able to flourish, because you got a street guy who, at the time I had no degrees. I was just out of high school, and so I had to figure out like what I was going to do as far as going to school. So I think one of the obstacles was the transition from being somebody or language, right, communication, being somebody from the street, trying to learn the banking lingo and that stuff. Being young was definitely an obstacle, because not only were there barriers in the way with it actually wasn't a race thing too. It was like a ageism, right? So like a lot of black, white, Spanish, they were like, "Yo, you're a kid," right? So like by the time I became VP, I was gonna manage other people, and so they're like, "I'm not listening to you." You know what I'm saying? Right, exactly. You know what I'm saying? And so I think it was ageism was an issue, and then eventually the obstacle of doing something that you really know that you don't love, right? Like. It becomes transactional. Like for me in the banking world, it was the same stuff over and over and over again. Corporate America is good for when you prove yourself. They want you to prove yourself again, but give you higher numbers and things of that nature. So I would say those were like the biggest obstacles I had to face.
So when did you transition from the bank to just full throttle entrepreneur?
Yeah, so right around 2008, 2009. And that's, the Great Recession and things. What people don't know from the inside was while the recession was happening, people were losing jobs. A lot of people within the banking industry were panicking. And so they knew that their jobs might be on the line as well. And so they were putting pressure. So the pressure was coming top down. So everybody was under pressure. They were really forcing us as managers to, just go harder, right. Even though numbers were showing that, people were losing homes, right. People were, didn't have good credit, whatever. All the numbers were showing that things were on a decline, but the bank was increasing our numbers. It got so crazy, it was stressful, and I said, I can't do this anymore, And so around, I want to say around 2004. I started to volunteer and teach financial literacy, go to schools, inner city schools, and just teach, talk to kids and churches and things of that nature about money. And I realized, I love that. I love doing it. I was passionate about it. And then one day, someone told me I was, in a Toastmasters class learning how to speak, right? Because I didn't know how to do public speaking, so I did Toastmasters. And during my Toastmasters class, somebody was like telling me how you can have a career as a public speaker. So I said, whoa. And they put the bug in my ear was that, most public speakers make money when they are authors. And so while I was at the bank, I started writing my first book, Mind Right, Money Right. And that was when I was like, all right, I was doing both, and like I said earlier, it was like the, best of both worlds. I had to be Ash Cash as a writer, because I couldn't be Ash Xantis at Chase. I had to be Ash Xantis at Chase, and I couldn't be, a conflict of interest. So I started to write. And right around like 2009, I want to say I left Chase and went to Carver Federal Savings Bank because I was like, if they're going to put pressure on me, I might as well go with my folks, with my people. And so Carver, largest African-American operated bank in the country. And so I said, all right, let me go to Carver. And then around 2010, I became a full-fledged entrepreneur because I said, it was right around my 30th birthday. So I was 29 years old. I remember this. I was 29 years old. My birthday's in November, so 29 in 2010. And right before my 30th birthday, I said I quit. I'm going to be a full-time entrepreneur. I even threw myself a retirement party. 40. Yo, if you follow me on Facebook, I am Ash Cash. Facebook.com/I am Ash Cash. Go to my pictures. You will see I have an album called Retirement Party. I had a retirement
I'm gonna
party.
go check it out.
Yeah,
Facebook
yeah.
Cash.
Yeah, I had a retirement party at 30, so I retired, and that was my first entree into entrepreneurship. But the thing I didn't know how to be an entrepreneur, and so I did good for about a year and a half, was making good money, but I fell flat on my face. I didn't really understand how to grind, how to properly grind. And so, I went into a period of almost losing my home, right? Couldn't afford my mortgage anymore, was married, my daughter was, I think, 2 at the time, and I was like, man, this is like the worst time of my life. I'm embarrassed. And think about this though, right? I released my first book, 2009, Mind Right, Money Right. I was getting good publicity, Essence magazines, Black Enterprise. I was on I-97 all the time, and I was the most popular I've ever been, which is why I thought I could quit. I was like, oh, I'm popular. People know my name now, and I thought fame equals money, and so that's why I quit. But then now, I can't afford my mortgage. I'm still on radio. I'm still on television. I'm still...
No bookings?
No, I'm not getting bookings because what I realized was the speaking business, it's a cycle. You don't get money all year round. There's like a good 3-4 months you go in, then it dies down. There's another 3-4 months you go in, and it dies down. And so if you don't understand how to stack while things are good, like if you don't balance that out throughout the year, you're gonna fall on your face. And I was spending money like I had a 9 to 5 when I should have been, stacking. I didn't see the slow period, and so, now I'm like still popular, but now I got a for sale sign on my lawn about to sell my crib. Worst feeling I've ever had in my life. But that contrast was good for me though, right? Because like you said, I was feeling myself. I wasn't humble, right?
Yeah.
I thought that I was getting all this fame. It was all about me. Like, look at Ash Cash, look what I'm doing.
Because it feels good, especially when you come from nothing.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
yeah.
you get it, even if it's like for those who don't come from nothing, come from nothing, you never have anything.
Yeah.
When you get just a little bit, you feel like a brand new person.
Yeah.
You don't even think about like the consequences.
But even those who don't come from nothing, think about it as obstacles, right? When you have certain obstacles in your life, once you overcome that obstacle, you feel like invincible and you start to walk around like, yo, these obstacles never happened. You know what I'm saying? And then you get the rude awakening that, if you don't act right, obstacles can come right back. You know what I mean? But yeah, so it was a interesting time. But that contrast was good for me. Like I needed to go through that to humble myself, but then to also understand my purpose. That my purpose, it's not about me, right? Like I've overcome a lot of obstacles, but the universe didn't allow me to overcome those obstacles so that I can stand on the stage and be like, yo, I did it. It did it so that I could be more impactful for the people I care about, right? For the people that I serve, for the people I write for the people I want to inspire, motivate every day. Without my story, I wouldn't be able to connect with people. And so I needed to go from nothing to something to nothing again. So now I have all the contracts. Now I can tell somebody with no doubt in my mind, and it's your mindset that creates your success. I can tell somebody that because there's no rebuttals now, right? Because I've been through it all. I know what it's like not to have it. I knew what it takes to get to the next level. I know what it is to get to the next level and mess that up. I know what it's like to now mess that up and get it back. And so I'm happy it happened, and so around 2012 is when I was like, all right, I got it now, and then I was able to take off, and then since then it's been good for me.
So you help a lot of entrepreneurs throughout your course. What is one common mistake that you see amongst entrepreneurs? I think that the biggest mistake is similar to like what I said earlier, where I was spending money like I had a 9 to 5, and not realizing that business is cyclical and that you need to have, you can't be cash poor, right? And so I think the biggest mistake is that as entrepreneurs are just starting out,
they still want to maintain the same lifestyle, right? They work so hard, and so they convince themselves that they deserve a reward. They deserve to go out. They deserve to buy the car. They deserve to live in this place, or they deserve whatever. And what they don't realize is that those first few years of being an entrepreneur, it's critical. It can make or break your business. And so instead of telling yourself, hey, I deserve this, be patient, right? And it's never a bad thing to have extra money. And so as you're making money, make sure that you're living below your means so that you have a reserve, so that if there are slow times, you don't have to pack up your business. You don't have to stop your flow and go get a 9-to-5, right? So make sure that there is, you have a constant flow as an entrepreneur. Another thing though too, for those out there who may have a 9-to-5 and they're ready to go into entrepreneurship, I would not quit. If I could do stuff over again, I probably would have kept my 6-figure job at a bank, still kept the distinction between Ash Exantis, Ash Cash, or figured out how to make that work so that I could still promote my business and have money coming in. Because people look at a 9-to-5 like, oh man, it's stopping me from getting my dreams and aspirations. But in fact, we need to start looking at our 9-to-5s as investors. It's your first investor. It's going to invest in your business, you know?
100%, because I was the same way. I quit my job, like I was telling you, and the first couple of months was good, and then I didn't plan properly. And one thing I try to stress to tell people is like, and especially in your books, you said like have an emergency fund, but they should also have like that investor fund. Like just make your job your investor and put some couple of money in there. But my question is, saving is hard to do just on a personal basis. So when you add the business to it, and they're working 9-to-5, and they're trying to save, and they want to quit at some point, how much, I guess you could say, should they have like 3 months worth of savings, 6 months? Like, what do you recommend? Yeah, so first I'm going to say that everything is perspective though, right? And so I don't think the savings is difficult to do. I think that we have to trick ourselves into doing it, right? So it's discipline.
Yeah, it's discipline, right? Because when you think about, you know, and I sit with a lot of entrepreneurs, I sit with a lot of people who make money, but they're like, man, I'm living check to check. Where's this money going? And when you look at, you know, their spending, you realize that they have leaks. That they have. It's not that they don't have money. They have money, but where are they directing the money? And so the first thing I would tell entrepreneurs is, when you're building that savings, when you're building that emergency fund, when you're building that financial freedom fund, out of sight, out of mind. Treat yourself like the IRS. If you work a 9-to-5, the IRS takes its taxes out. You don't even see it. You know what money you budget? You don't budget your gross income. You budget your net. You budget what comes when what you see in your checking account. And so why can the IRS take their money off the top and you're not taking the money that's going to help you sustain off the top? And so out of sight, out of mind, you have to create a system where the money comes off the top, and it's somewhere that you don't have access to, right? You should have a debit card or ATM card with your savings account. Your savings account shouldn't be at a bank that you walk by every day.
Yeah.
Right? Those two things, if you open up an account where it's inconvenient for you to have access to, then the likeliness of you keeping that savings is going to be, you know, greater. And then, you know, you're going to continue to stack, and that's not even going to bother you anymore, because the only money that you see is the money that is coming after you pay yourself first. And so I would say entrepreneurs need to do that. Entrepreneurs need to do it. People who have 9-to-5s need to do it, because having money is going to alleviate everything. Meaning that I've not had money and tried to be an entrepreneur, and I've had money and become an entrepreneur. It's much easier. The brain space that you need, because like I said, everything is in the mind. The brain space that you need to be successful comes from not having to worry about other things. And so if you're worrying about how your bills are going to be paid, if you're worried about how you're going to eat, if you're worried about these everyday things, right? You start to worry about those things. Let's say your brain is this big. You shrink the creativity. You shrink the amount of space you have to attract things and to manifest things, because the other half of your brain is focused on, right? And so if you get to a space where you release some of that worry, and you got all this space to manifest, to create your dreams, to work on those dreams, and when you put whatever you focus on is what you're gonna get, right? And so as you start to put the focus in, it's gonna happen.
Now, earlier you had mentioned like when you get your paycheck, the government takes up the top, and you get the net, they get the gross. In business, can you kind of break down what is the difference between profit and like actual income? Because I don't think some people feel like when you make money from your business, that's your money.
No,
you got to take
I
care
wish.
of other things.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So I think that's a great question, because I think that's the biggest misconception is that if a business, and unfortunately, it's an Instagram trick, it's a social media trick. I watch a lot of these entrepreneurs talk about how they've made $1 million, or I'm a 6-figure entrepreneur, but what they're not showing you their expense chart. They're not telling you that they're outsourcing a lot of their business, or they're paying for ads, or whatever the case may be, and all of that stuff becomes an expense. And so after they make 6 figures, $100,000 in their business, it costs them $60,000, or it costs them $80,000 to run the business. And so what they're really coming home with is $20,000, and that $20,000 really can't sustain their lifestyle. And that's why they live paycheck to paycheck. That's why they have debt and things of that nature. And so the difference is that the money, your revenue, your revenue that comes in, from your business is not income, it's not your profit. Profit and income is when you take your revenue minus your expenses, what's left over is what you have left, and that's what your profit is. That's what your income is. And a lot of times, it takes money to make money. And so a lot of times you're gonna need to put money back into your business in order to help it thrive. I'll give you an example. When I wrote, the Wake Up Call, the Jay-Z inspired book. I wrote that in January, and that has been so far my highest selling book all times, right? Next year, will be my 10-year anniversary of writing my first book, right? But, the Wake Up Call has been my most successful book. But even as I started to be successful in that book, and I was making, 5 figures a month from that book, I had to take a lot of that money and put it back into marketing, put it back into spaces so that I could keep the momentum of getting the book out there, getting my name out there. It wasn't the time for me to be like, yes, I made it, because now I got 5 other books that if I put money into that, I could get more publicity for those books, and I could create, a snowball effect of really having sustainable success, and when you start putting money back into your business, what's going to happen is eventually, it's going to flow by itself. So now I'm at a space where I make decent money from books, because early on, the first, few months of the year, I was pumping money back into advertising and marketing and things of that nature. And now, sort of like the word of mouth, now there's thousands of copies of the book out there, and now the people are selling the book for me. So I don't have to take my money and promote it. People are coming to me, and people are recognizing me or seeing who I am and saying, oh, I want to check out what he has going on. But I needed money to be able to pump back into it. And so, for any entrepreneur out there, they have to understand that it does take money to make money. Lower your expenses. Don't give permanent energy to temporary things. If you gotta, cut back on your living space, if you gotta, get a roommate, if you gotta, eat ramen noodles, whatever, like that's temporary. Don't look at it like it's a permanent thing, because soon you'll be able to pop bottles. You'll be able to, and I promise you, that once you grind it out and get to that level where you can do these things, you're probably not going to want to do them anyway.
That's the truth.
You know what I mean? So, yeah.
And I would say you're 100% correct when you say you had to put the money back into advertising. You got like 5 of the books. It's the truth, because when I read 4 first. No, I heard about 4 first.
Yeah.
And then I went to Amazon, saw the other books. So I was like, I'm going to need mine right, money right, because I need my money right.
Yeah.
And I read that book, and I read Mine Right,
Life Right.
Life Right.
Yep.
Then what else did I read? Then I didn't read What the Fight Book yet, and now I'm starting to read 4 because I started it, but I'm gonna be honest, I didn't finish it yet. Because I was just so focused on getting my mind right.
Yep.
And in those books, you speak about affirmations.
Yes, man.
And just keeping a positive mindset.
Yep.
So being an entrepreneur, for me personally, like outside the environment, sometimes you go on social media and you be like, damn, they getting it.
Yeah.
What am I doing wrong? And sometimes, your mind can like play games.
Oh, for sure.
How important is to keep the affirmations and also just keeping that positive, mindset?
Yeah, it's the single most important thing that you can do. If you did nothing else and just got your mind right, you can effectively have more success than any other thing that you can do. Because you could, if you have the wrong mindset, but you're working hard, the success is not going to come. Mm-hmm. So the single thing that you can do is change your mindset. But how do you change your mindset? It's what you say to yourself repeatedly. Because think about this, right? So me, for instance, growing up in the projects, I'm a black man. I've been being told all my life that I wasn't going to amount to anything. I was going to be dead or in jail by 25. All these negative things that I was being told. I wasn't really, I wasn't really supposed to be successful. And so those things have this it stays in your mind. Right. And to the point where you become, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like you just start to believe it, and subconsciously, right? And subconsciously you start to move in that way. And so, like literally, I can, on my phone, I can show you every day at 4 a.m. I've been doing it for the last 15 years of my life. Every single day at 4 a.m. I have affirmations that come up, and I read those affirmations because I need to remind myself of what are those things that I am going to accomplish. Not that I want to accomplish. What are those things that I'm going to accomplish? Because I need to remind myself of them. Because it's like a shower, right? Think about this. Nobody wakes up and takes a shower and then says, okay, I took a shower, so I'm good now. What's going to happen? You take a shower, you go out into the world, you're going to get dirty, right? And as you get dirty, when it's time to retire and go to bed, you need to clean yourself again. Same thing. Mentally, you're gonna eat whatever you do to clean your mind, whether it's affirmations, whether it's watching positive things, going to church, whatever it is that you do to stay positive. When you go out into the real world, your mind's gonna get dirty. You're gonna go and now it's easier to get your mind dirty. Because before it had to be your immediate environment. Now you could be in your house and pick up the phone and get these messages that dirty up your mind. So now that process is even faster. So you need to make sure, no matter what, that your mind is right. And so that affirmations of I say affirmations every day. I make sure that I limit the amount of things. Like I don't watch the news. I figure.
Reality TV.
What is it?
Reality TV.
I don't watch any of that.
I'm almost there.
Yeah, I don't watch, and the reason why I don't watch any, like the only thing I love interviews. I love documentaries. So I'm always on YouTube, like watching people's story because it's good to see what they go through, right? It's good to see the grind. But I try to stay away from it. I do watch shows, so I have like Netflix and Hulu, and I watch shows. Yeah, I'm not into reality TV. Yeah, I'm not into news because no knock. Because a lot of the television stations, help me get my message out, so no knock to the television station. But they'll be like, hey, welcome to Good Day, whatever. And then, this person got raped, this person got killed. I'm like,
out the gate, good morning, here's some bad news.
Yeah. And so immediately you like ready, like, all right, good morning, all right. So you're like, wait, oh man, right? Lock the doors, hide your wife, hide your kids.
It's only 8:30.
Right, it's only 8:30. Right, so now you walk out the house with a heavy heart because something happened and you're like, man, and now, and so I know that if it's something that is detrimental that will affect me, I'll hear about it. I don't need to watch the news to do it. And so I make sure that I'm listening to positive messages. And the reason for it too is because, as you go throughout your day, things are going to happen, right? And being positive is going to allow you to look at what happens in a proper mindset. I don't believe in negative and positive. I used to be like, man, this is negative energy or this is positive energy or whatever. No, things are what they are. And everything that is in your life, you've attracted it in your life and it's there to teach you something. And so if I see something on the news, I'm not saying that there aren't bad things that happen in the world. There are absolutely some bad things that happen in the world. But as bad things are happening and I look and I'm like, damn, that's messed up. it's for me to say, man, what could I do to change it? Or what message is this trying to give me? And so, even if something undesirable happens in my life, I don't look at it like, man, it's the worst thing that ever happened. I always ask myself, what is this trying to teach me? Why did I lose X amount of money? Or why did this, what is it trying to teach me? And now I get the message because again, everything, good, bad, ugly, every single thing that is happening in your life, you've attracted it some way because you asked for something, right? I love to use this example of Waze, the GPS system. I love Waze, right? So WAZE. So Waze, when you put in the address that you need to go to, what it's going to do is crowdsource, right? It's going to tell you which direction to get to your destination based on what traffic is already out there. Sometimes, though, it's going to take you through the back roads. It's going to take you around. It's going to take you to places where you're like, yo, I'm just trying to go straight. Why are you taking me all these different, making these maneuvers, right? But what you got to realize is that Waze already knows that there's traffic there. So it's actually giving you the quickest way to your destination. You may not agree with it. You may be like, why am I going north if I got to go south? Why am I going east if I got to go west? But what you're going to realize is if you follow Waze, you're going to actually get to your destination faster, right? And so it's important that you realize, that's what life is about. That's the good, the bad, the ugly. You may look at a bad situation and be like, God, universe, why did I have to go through this? But nah, you ask for something, and the universe is like, yo, it's not going to be a straight line. I need you to go through this to get to here, and that's gonna take you there. And so if you follow that, you will be successful each time. You just gotta never give up. You just gotta keep going.
I never thought in a million years I would teach money for entrepreneurship. And it took me, you're right, to lose an apartment, sleeping on couches. So now when I teach, it's like, don't do this.
Right, exactly.
Let me just don't do what I did.
Exactly.
Keep the job.
Exactly.
So you're right, the universe does put you towards different directions to get to that point because it's going to benefit somebody else.
Oh, without a doubt. And you though, right? Because universal law. The more you give, the more you get.
Right.
So as you're pouring into entrepreneurs, I promise you, as you're pouring into entrepreneurs, it might not come back from them, but you're pouring into yourself as well. You know what I'm saying?
Learn more.
Yeah, you learn more, but then also, the more you give people what they want, the universe is gonna give it back to you as well. Yeah.
First entrepreneur should use before they start looking at an accountant?
Yeah, as you start making money, you definitely want to start to, keep your books. I'm a fan of QuickBooks because QuickBooks, there's ways that you could connect your account, to QuickBooks, and so that way you can keep a running tab. But honestly, you could do it with your bank account, right? And make sure that, all of your expenses, you're using a bank account to manage those expenses. If you don't want to add the extra expense of paying for QuickBooks, or if you don't want to add the expense of having a bookkeeper or an accountant every day, then just make sure that you open an account that is designated specifically for your business, and every single transaction, anything that has to do with that business, is coming from that bank account. So that way, at the end of the year, when you hire an accountant to look at your books or do your taxes or whatever the case may be, there's a tally of all that stuff using your account. So I would say that's a great way. I'm a big fan of Excel spreadsheets as well. So having a budget sheet that you could, plug into Excel and track your spending and see how what you do. There's other apps out there. You got Mint, Mint as one of the apps out there. But I would just say it's different for different people. Some people are, have to see it. So some people could just buy a regular, notebook, 8.5 by 11 notebook and write it down. Excel might be the way. An app might be the way. QuickBooks might be the way. Having an account might be the way. I just think that. I don't believe that there's a right way, everybody should do it this way. Yeah, I just think that you have to have a system though, and that system should be based on your preference, what's going to allow you to be most effective in tracking those numbers.
One question I get a lot in class is when to get the business bank account. Because you have to keep the personal finances from your business separate.
Yeah. When
you have a business. But sometimes the fees can be you have to keep a minimum balance of $2,500.
Yeah.
some have zero minimum balance, but then it's the monthly fees.
Yeah.
You might up being a negative. So when is the right time? I don't know if it's necessarily the right time, but when should you get the bank account? Like, should you just save your own personal money and put it in the account to keep the balance?
Yeah, I would. Right. I would definitely say that once you make a decision that you are going to become an entrepreneur, you should be functioning like an entrepreneur. I think that it would, make sense to, save up. To say, you know what, if the minimum balance to have in my bank account is $1,500 to avoid fees or $2,500 to avoid fees, I'm going to save up my personal money and I'm going to open a bank account with that money, right? That should be one of your first financial goals. And the reason that should be a financial goal is because it also mentally puts your number up, meaning that when somebody says they're broke is relative, right? Some people might say, man, I'm broke, and they have $200 in their account because that's the number that they set for themselves. Somebody might say, man, I got $2,500. I only got $2,500. I'm broke. A person, like I literally know people who have $50,000 in their account and they're broke, right? Because their lifestyle, because of the money that they're used to getting. And so we need to start increasing our number. And so as an entrepreneur, I think that saying, you know what, if I'm going to be an entrepreneur, having less than $2,500 means that I'm broke. And so before I even really start, I'm going to start slow, but my first financial goal is to save up at least $2,500 to have in that account. I'm going to tell you what that does for you. What that's going to do is it's going to give you that peace of mind, because if you're used to having $200 or $300 or whatever, now that you know that you have to keep this $2,500 in there, you're never going to slip back to that $200 space, because that number doesn't exist anymore. It doesn't make sense, right? Your $200 becomes your dollar, right? Like for some people, if no matter how broke you are, if a homeless person's like, yo, do you have $1? You're like, yo, sure, right? It's nothing. That dollar for that homeless person means more to them than it does to me. I always get $1, right? And so, because in your mind, $1, I always get $1. And so I want entrepreneurs to start saying, what, $1,000? I can always get $1,000. $2,500? I can always get $2,500. Right? Increase that number continuously so that your old number doesn't affect you anymore. So I do think that that's a first step. Let's rechange that mindset. Let's say, okay, I'm going to save up. I'm going to borrow, whatever you need to do to get $2,500 and not spend it and just leave it in the account. And then start from there. I think that's what you should do.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So, quickly, because I know you have to go and we have to wrap things up, but when you started your business, it was just all self-funded, or did you have to go for bank loans, because you know the bank system, or did you do investors, or was it straight all you?
Yeah, all self-funded. So in the beginning and that's why I'm a big fan of residual income. I'm a big fan of passive income. I'm a big fan of creating things that you can sell. So whatever your business is, I know a lot of times entrepreneurs get into the habit of, say I'm going to work on these things and then I'm going to release something. Figure out what could be a source of income for you early, right? I'm a big fan of books, obviously, right? So I've written 7 books. And the reason, though, is because that provides me a good, at least some income, and so, I really think that, it's important to have those sources. And so for me, when I first started, I had money that I saved up through working in the banks. But then when I was going through some stuff, I had to cash in the 401k, had to move some things around. But then, I got to a point where I always had books. And so if it got rough for me, then all right, I'm hitting the phone up. Yo, can I come speak at your church? Can I do this? Because I know at least I can sell some books. I know, are there vendors out there? Right? So I think that, for me, it was really always about the hustle. It was always about, I had credit cards too, right? I had credit cards and I racked up to fund the business. But at some point though, so it was self-funded until I said, you know what? I'm going to pump X amount of money personally in this business, and it has to work though.
Gotcha.
I'm not putting no more personal money into it. And so if I save up and say, you know what, I'm going to start this business with $10,000, then my business plan has to from day one has to come with a way that I'm going to start generating income. That I'm not going to use this $10,000 to run the business. I'm going to use the $10,000 as a way to create something that's going to give me income. Yeah.
So do you recommend, because I know certain businesses, they should be going for like a loan because it might be a lot of like overhead and stuff. But
Yeah.
for those who want to like a t-shirt line or like, influencers, you think they should look for loans that they do? What are some risks when you're taking out a loan?
Yeah.
Being an investor?
Yeah, I think so. A couple of things, right? So, I suggest you bootstrap, which means like your money, friends and family. I recommend bootstrap as much as you can, unless it's an organization providing a grant, right? Because you don't have to pay grants back. But if it's a loan, a couple of things that if you're just starting out as an entrepreneur, banks are not going to give you a loan based on your business because they want to see cash flow. They want to see that you're making money already. What they'll do is they'll probably give you a loan based on a personal guarantee, which means that you're going to guarantee this loan personally, and if it doesn't work out, they can come after your personal assets, they can come after you, whatever, right? And so I definitely wouldn't, suggest that. I would suggest that, you bootstrap as much as possible. You make sure that this is a viable business, because there's a lot of people who have these great ideas, but they don't prove the concept. So they have this idea, they're like, I want to be an entrepreneur, I know this idea works, but if the idea works, then you don't have customers. If you don't have customers, you need to rethink that idea, because if you're going to fund all of this, you're going to put all this money into this business that you think is a great idea, but nobody else thinks it's a great idea, because if they thought it was a great idea, you'll be making customers out of it. And if you just have an issue with getting customers, then you don't have a business issue, you have a marketing issue. How do you market your business, right? And so I think that that's where the focus is, because if you spend all this money on this business and you get this loan and you mess up your personal credit, and now you go back and say, you know what, it just wasn't a good idea. So I would suggest influencers, anybody who starts a business, instead of putting everything into your business, prove the concept. Start small. Start small, think big. Say, you know what, I'm not gonna put it all on the line. Let me just see. Let me write this book and see if people even want to. Matter of fact, before I even spend my time writing a book, let me write an article, right? Like my book, What the FICO. I didn't think about writing about credit, but everybody kept asking me, how do you fix credit? How do you fix credit? How do you fix credit? Everybody was paying thousands of dollars to do it. I saw value. There was a market there. I wrote an article for MSNBC called What the FICO, 5 things you shouldn't do with your credit. It went viral, like all these different sites were picking it up, and everybody was sending me messages. I said, oh, that's a book. And that's why I did it. When I wrote 444, the wake up call.
You wrote them like that. You have the Kanye book too?
Yeah.
How do you do that? Pop these books out?
Dictation. That's the secret. When I wrote the wake up call, I didn't say I'm gonna write a book about it. I said, I'm gonna go to colleges and teach it. And so I would literally, I have a track of all of the verses that are money related. And I used to go to schools and I would just do the workshop, play the track, explain it, do the workshop. And then I was getting so much buzz and so much good feedback from it. I said, I'm gonna write the book. Right? Same thing with the Kanye book. I was seeing that there was a conversation happening about mental health and money. And Kanye was a great, a great person to mix the two. And so I said, I'm gonna do it. And dictation works, right? So, I could talk to you about like literally this interview that we have right now. If you transcribe this interview, we get a book. We have a book. We could write a book based on this interview. We could transcribe it and write a book. And that's what I do, right? And what it took us half an hour to get, you know what I'm saying? And so it's about working smarter and not harder, and that's what I realized. And so I could dump a book out in a month.
When I saw the Kanye book, I was like, damn, that was fast. Yeah. So you have like 7 books.
Yes.
So out of the 7 books, what is the first book you would recommend? Like an entrepreneur, actually for your entrepreneur. Yeah. Anybody can read out of the 7 books.
Mind Right, Life Right.
Yes, it is.
That is my favorite book, because it's the book that I talk about my philosophy. And when I say my philosophy, just the philosophy that works for me. the laws of the universe have been around before me, right? And so it's just me studying the laws of the universe. It's me understanding how they work and coming up with what I call the mindset principles, the mindset principles that anybody can apply to anything in their life, right? So mind right, life right. I'm talking about if you want a better relationship, then follow the mind right, life right guide. If you want to be a better employee, then follow that guide. If you want to be a better entrepreneur, follow that guide. If you want to be a better basketball coach, follow that guide. And so I would suggest that that's the book. When it's all said and done, that is the book for me. That is my best book. That is that is my philosophy from beginning to end. And one of the reasons why I felt like it was important to write that book was because when The Secret came out, and everybody was talking about the law of attraction, people started to make it seem like it was just about thoughts. Like thoughts become things. Like if I think it's
put the picture up.
Right. That's a big part of it though, but that's not the only part. There's other things that need to happen in order for you to manifest, in order for that thought to become a thing, there's steps that need to happen, and I go through all of that within my life, right?
What's the next one, Mr. Ashcash? What you have going on now?
Teaching. I think that I've spent a lot of time writing, but I do think that there's I love to travel. My job day to day is always going from state to state, colleges and stuff like that. But I do think that there's a space for online school for me. And so, I'm starting to now teach. I did a workshop not too long ago called Mind Right, Write Right, how to write and publish your book in 90 days or less. Because all the things, I feel like I'm getting at that space that all the things that I've learned, there are other people who want to learn them as well, or they're going through certain things, and I can help navigate those waters a little smoother. So I'm creating the Mind Right Money Academy.
Yes,
where I can really start to teach, create a subscription based model where I have sort of like Facebook Lives or webinars on a daily basis or a weekly basis. But that's the next thing. Unless the universe gives me a strong sign, like, hey, write another book, I probably won't. Like, write another book immediately. I might just focus on the online. Yeah.
Well, you've been helping a lot of people. I thank you for coming here and helping my audience. Make sure you get all his books, Amazon. I don't know if it's still $5, but when I sold Iraq,
absolutely.
Very affordable.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Candid Conversations. Ashcash. Make sure you follow him. It's I am Ashcash.
I am Ashcash on all platforms.
Everything. So until next time, this is Candid Conversations. You guys stay candid.